Thank you for the joy. What a wonderful way to begin our morning together. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to those of you gathering with us online, and welcome to those of you gathering with us here in South Edmonton, Treaty 6 territory. Welcome to SSUC, where we all have a place in the circle. And we invite you to take your place, whatever your age or your stage, whatever your beliefs or your convictions, whatever your hopes or your fears, however you identify or locate yourself. We come together today with each other to sing and to pray, to seek wisdom, to receive and make music together. And we come to honor Indigenous Peoples History Month as we center ourselves in this time and in this place with one another. More than 2 decades ago, when this facility in South Edmonton was being conceived, a welcome video was created, and it was so aptly called Being in the Circle. because roundness is core to our identity. Concentric circles shape our spiritual gatherings. The dove circling through the streaming colors in the banners behind me here on the north wall. The circle of life that greets us at the front door in the memorial garden. The circle of life that greets us here on the north wall, connecting baptism and death, connecting beginnings and endings in the ever-cycling experience of what it is in living and dying. The many learning circles we share with one another, sitting around tables like this, tables that are round, tables without sides and corners and sharp edges. In the roundness, making decisions, sharing food. We form circles that care for those who are facing change, circles of comfort for those who are facing grief, circles of conversation that shape our questions and our concerns move out into ever-widening circles of compassion. We know that the Indigenous of our land have so much to teach us about the wisdom of circle. And as we gather with each other today, we're going to listen for that wisdom and we're going to learn from that wisdom. We live in the circle embrace of sky and earth, and so it is that we acknowledge our respect for the land that opens to feed us, to teach us, and to receive us when our lifetime is done. We take a moment, wherever you are, whether you're with us in this room or you're with us online, wherever it is that your feet find themselves, we take this moment to honor the Indigenous of the places we all call home, the spirituality, the language, the ceremonies, the medicines of those who've been longest in the land. And we seek, most of us as settlers, who've immigrated to this land or whose ancestors immigrated to this land, or as refugees who have come recently to this land seeking safety and sanctuary. Together with the Indigenous of our land, we seek to heal the wounds of colonialism and find ways to live with respect and mutuality. And so it is we begin today by singing that commitment to one another.
Gathering, honoring, remembering where we meet, our deep respect for history and culture still incomplete. First peoples land from long before, relationships to restore, enriching and reconciling ways. We live and dream for more. Gathering, honoring, remembering where we meet. Our deep respect for history and culture still incomplete. First peoples land from long before, relationships to restore, enriching and reconciling ways. We live and dream for more.
As we light our candle, we acknowledge the woundedness that has come out of our failure to seek light in one another. And we light our candle here in this community as we invite you to light yours at home, as a sign of our commitment to live in the ways that seek the light in one another, acknowledging it's not just in some of us, it's in all of us. Also, lamenting the colonial enterprise of our missionary endeavors, which failed to come saying, I will share my treasures with you if you will share your treasures with me. So we light our candle as a commitment to share our teachings, our treasures with one another, and to live in ways that seek the light in one another, which is our greatest hope for our humanity and indeed for all the species with whom we share this magnificent planet we call home. Those of you that are here in this space are familiar with the banners that are often on our walls surrounding us. In 2015, we commissioned a local Cree artist by the name of Arthur Gallant to create 7 banners representing the elders' teachings of respect and truth, courage, honesty, wisdom, humility, and love. And these banners hang in our space, resonating with values that come out of the Indigenous peoples across Turtle Island and are values that we too hold dear and hold in common with one another. As we gather each Sunday, we seek to strengthen our intentions, to live in ways that are consistent with those 7 sacred teachings or the values that we've placed before ourselves. And today we offer the words of former moderator of the United Church, a Cree man from Fisher River Cree Nation in Manitoba, Stan McKay. We offer his words as our prayer this day as we seek to live in ways that honor these sacred teachings. We pray with each other. We come with thanksgiving for our very breath, the warmth of sun, and the sustaining waters, for life all around us, the plants, soft grasses, and sheltering trees, for the ones that crawl, those that swim, and those that fly, for the 4-legged and the 2-legged, all our relations. We celebrate the diversity in creation as reflected in the 4 winds from the 4 directions. We strive for understanding our shared life on the earth. We strive to live out the 7 sacred teachings: respect, love, honesty, courage, humility, wisdom, and truth. These teachings enable us to live in harmony with ourselves, with our neighbors, and with all created earth. May it be so. I want to invite Pam to come and share a story with us.
If you haven't visited Edmonton Public Library lately, oh, I do. Thank you.
It's the dueling microphones.
That's all right. And now you broke my rhythm. Now I've forgotten what I'm going to say.
Back
No.
to Edmonton Public.
Edmonton Public Library. If you haven't been there recently, you are missing a wealth of stories about First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples. I've just renewed these for 3 more weeks. please leave here with one of these books and return it in the next 3 weeks, okay? I'm going to read one. It's called Just a Walk. It's written by Jordan Wheeler. Now, Jordan, you may have heard of Jordan, or you may have seen some of his works. He's written a lot of plays. He's done a lot of writing for AAPN or APTN, and also for the CBC. And this book is illustrated by Christopher John Michael Octor. Now, he is a Cree individual who lives on Haida Island, and he's done a lot of animation and illustration for films and all sorts of wonderful things. I encourage you to look up these people because their stories and their gifts are so amazing. Just a Walk by Jordan Wheeler, illustrated by Christopher Octor. One day, Chuck decided to go for a walk. He didn't know where, so he followed a hawk. Down to the river, he watched the hawk fly, and Chuck followed after, watching the sky. Over the river, he saw the hawk dash, but Chuck didn't look, and he fell in with a splash. Now, if there were children sitting up here, I would have asked them to say that word. So please bring on the rhymes. He was all soaking wet. Did it matter to him? Not until he remembered he couldn't swim. Down to the bottom, Chuck sank like a rock. He thought, this is no way to go for a walk. His feet hit the mud, and he went in with a squish. Chuck held his breath and grabbed onto a fish. He gave that old fish some encouraging calls, but the crazy old fish led him over the falls. Chuck thought he was finished. He hadn't a chance. But just then his long braids got caught in a branch. High in the sky, he hung safe in an oak. But as luck would have it, the branch cracked and it broke. Down to the water, Chuck felt himself float, but lucky for him, he fell into a boat. Chuck said to himself, safe at last, I think. But the boat had a hole and it started to sink. The water wasn't as deep as before, so he jumped off the boat and he waded to shore. From any more danger, he thought he was free, when a mean old badger chased Chuck up a tree. That tree was a big one, 10 meters tall. That tree was an old one. It started to fall. Chuck jumped from the tree and into the air and plunked himself down on the back of a bear. The bear got scared and she started to run. Chuck started to laugh. He thought it was fun. Into the forest, the frightened bear flew, with Chuck sticking onto her back like glue. The bear ran and ran until she hit a big bump, and Chuck bounced off her back to the ground with a thump. He was lucky enough to land on his feet, but an eagle flew down and grabbed him by the seat. Now, I'm not terribly sure we should show this next image, but okay. Over the treetops, the eagle flew high, and Chuck found himself once again in the sky. Enjoying the ride, he yelled, "Northward ho!" And at that very moment, the eagle let go. On his way down, Chuck was grabbed by the hawk, the same one he chased at the start of his walk. But the hawk looked at Chuck and said, "Two is a crowd," and he took Chuck away to a big, fluffy cloud. Now, everyone knows that clouds make fogs, and sometimes clouds rain cats and dogs. I think we've had some experience with that recently. But on this day, the cloud rained Chuck. He landed in a puddle of muck. The puddle of muck was soft, not hard, and it happened to be in Chuck's backyard. Into his house he went in a hurry and saw his mother stricken with worry. "You've been gone all day," she yelled. "Look at the clock." "I'm okay, Mom," said Chuck. "I just went for a walk." I'm sure we all, in some ways, in some points of our lives, have done a fair bit of walking. I don't think I've ever had a walking experience like that, and I never want to.
One more step along the world I go. One more step along the world I go. From countries to the moon, I'll keep traveling in spirit true. And through the old I travel to the new. I'll keep traveling in spirit true. Only courage when the world is rough. I'll be loving when the world is tough. Live and sing and all I'll keep traveling with spirit true. And through the old I travel to the new. I'll keep traveling with spirit true. On the corner of the world I turn, more and more about the world I learn. All the new things that I see, I'll be sharing it with family. And the old I travel to the new. I'll keep traveling and feel it true. When it's easier to walk on by, I'll be never looking eye to eye. To stand to help and care, I'll be seeking to do my share. And the old I travel to the new. I'll keep traveling with spirit true.
In my life is a wonderful woman by the name of Ruth Blaser. Ruth makes her home in Regina, grew up on unbroken prairie outside Regina, and has been working with Indigenous folk and learning from Indigenous folk in her area for many, many years. Ruth produced a collection of writings called Remnants, poems and stories rooted in land and a life. And I want to share with us this morning her poem entitled Florence and Thomas. Florence, an Indigenous woman who has been a teacher in Ruth's life. Thomas, referring to Thomas Berry, cosmologist that has been a teacher to so many of us. Florence and Thomas. Shy to talk, shyer still when asked to pray. Residential school nearly made straight her crooked smile, but couldn't touch the stars in her eyes that grow brighter as she rolls out her stream of stories that haul you in and send you out laughing. Old now herself, she had long practiced with the Papipsikis girls the art of lip pointing, head up, chin back, both lips flattened out big, tight up under the nose, and pushed forward, way forward. In her own lip pointing up, Florence would not let a gathering begin until each had taken their place and the circle was formed. Those lips meant sit down, stop talking, move that chair. Each gesture pointed to the purpose she had been taught by elders before her, simply and always, to make the circle and make it good. Roundness, says Thomas Berry, is no small thing. This fragile, sacred form that neither implodes nor explodes when held in place by two balancing forces, differentiation and bondedness. Everywhere, this sacred arc surrounds and inhabits curve of moon, orb of sun, nape of neck, rise of hill, shoulder of tree, wing of bird, bend of grass. This shape that begins and ends in curve, the shape of earth, cell, womb, wave, humans in a circle or two with their arms around one another. The arc, the curve, the circle, the fragile sacred form. Florence, a survivor. Thomas, a scholar. Each knew and taught in their own way this great truth. Roundness is no small thing. It is the form in which all life evolves. And so when we do our sacred work, we make the circle and we make it good. As part of our experience of learning this morning, we have an opportunity to learn from Dallas Arkan. Dallas is a 3-time world hoop champion. Comes from the Alexander Plains Cree First Nation, not far from here, Treaty 6 territory. Some of you will remember he opened the 2010 Olympic Games with a magnificent hoop dance. He is a musician, plays acoustic instruments, in particular the native flute. He's a singer, a storyteller, a teacher, an artist, and an athlete. If you're joining us on Facebook this morning and you lose the stream, please just go to TEDx on YouTube and look for Living a Circular Life, and you'll see what it is we're going to see in this room. And we're just going to view the first half of this TEDx talk that was given in Calgary in 2014. I encourage you at home to see the second half. The first half is the teaching that we're going to hear this morning. The second half is an incredible performance of the hoop dance that he goes on to offer to the community that's gathered there. So we learn from Dallas Arkan what it is to live a circular life.
Hello, Intanse, ladies and gentlemen, Oki. First and foremost, I would like to acknowledge the Blackfoot people. The Blackfoot Confederacy, Calgary, is known as the Treaty 7 territory, and I would like to acknowledge the ancestors of the Blackfoot people for which we walk with the utmost respect on their traditional lands. I'm here today to share with you on how to live your life in a circle. Simply by just living in a circle. We can relate to the greatest circle of all time as human beings, and it's simply just called time. Now, time has a continuous flow. It goes around and around. And like a river, it continuously flows. Like a tree, it continuously grows. And each and every one of us, through the processes and phases of Mother Earth, we experience that time and we grow. And that brings us to the wheel of energy. And ever since the beginning of time, our ancestors have been fascinated by the invention and the creation of the wheel. And even to this day, it is still very important in our technology, our energy, our way of life. And the smallest form of energy is in a circle. So we must always keep that circle strong. Now the hoop dance has taught me how to live my life in a circle, literally by dancing in circles for the past 22 years as a hoop dancer. It has brought me full circle in my own life from being somebody who knew nothing about dancing and hoops to becoming a 3-time world champion hoop dancer. Now the hoop dance has saved my life because when I was 13, I ended up in jail. And I ended up in a bad path in my life. And when I was introduced to the hoop dance and my Cree culture and my traditions, it changed me. And it brought me closer to the circle. And it brought me closer to believing in myself. So I guess it's safe to say that I'm the real Lord of the Rings. Now, I'd like to share with you these sacred circle teachings that we have with the hoop dance. It teaches us that the circle has no beginning and no end. And ever since the beginning of time, our ancestors have practiced these ways. It has never been written, but it has always been told through our oral traditions that the hoop dance is one of the oldest dances of North America. And in this dance, we honor the sacred circle in many different ways in our ceremonies. And the original hoop dance ceremony, it was a dance performed not for an audience, not for how it is today, but it was done as a ceremony in prayer to help restore balance and harmony in the world. So in the hoop dance, we always honor those 4 sacred directions of Mother Earth. We honor the 4 types of life on the Mother Earth. And originally, that ceremony, it's still very much part of the performance that you're about to see today. And what I've come to know in my lifetime as a hoop dancer is what goes around, comes around, always, in a circle. Some call that the boomerang effect. What comes around, what you put out into the universe, always comes back to you. So if you want to put out positive energy into the universe, it'll always come back to you in that way, in that positive light. So that's what I've come to know as a hoop dancer as well. It's taught me about balance. What we do on the left side, we have to do on the right side of our body. And we have to create that momentum and flow. And that's another thing that hoop dance has taught us, is that we must go with the flow of nature, because once we go against the flow, then we disrupt that energy and it stops and there's no more flow. So that's what hoop dancing has taught me over the years. We must have that flow to keep going. Now, in your personal life, in your professional life, we have to have that balance too. Some of us work too much. Some of us are workaholics and we don't have a personal life. Well, that can cause us to be stressed and unbalanced and unhealthy. And then some of us know people that don't work enough, that have too much free time and can't support themselves. So there's an unhealthy balance there too. So that's what the hoop dance teaches us, creating those healthy ripples that healthy balance within the sacred circle and the hoop. It teaches us to create those healthy circles around us. But first, we must be healthy first. And then we create those healthy circles right around us. So we help people. We help people. In our culture, we call that, our elders train us from a young age, and that's called being a Waskapios. In the Cree language, that basically just means the helper. And the role of the Waskapios is to help out with the Sundance Lodge or the Sweat Lodge or the feast or the ceremonies or everything that is part of our culture. And it's very highly respected role to play as a Waskapios, and that's what I am. I'm a Waskapios as well. So when I go back home, I help out. I help out with our ceremonies. I help out with our elders. And I'm always willing to help somebody who is willing to help themselves. And that is the role of the Waskapios. Not only just being a hoop dancer, but it's all part of our medicine wheel, our culture. And in the medicine wheel, we have the 4 sides, the 4 parts of the medicine wheel to represent for those 4 sacred directions of Mother Earth. And in the medicine wheel, what is it? It teaches us about the 4 parts of ourselves, which is the physical, the mental, and the emotional, and the spiritual. And that makes a whole person. And that brings us to the 4 parts of a person, which are the spirit, because when you're born, that initial spark of life that happens inside of your mother's womb, that's that spirit that comes in. And then eventually your body starts to form, and then you're born into the world, which brings us into the physical part, your body. And then after that, after you're born and you start to experience the world, you learn your language, and you learn how to use your senses. Basically, that represents for your mental side of yourself. And then last but not least, the 4th part is the emotional, how we react to the world around us, how the world shapes us as an individual, and who we become to be based off of our emotions and what we know and who we are. Now, as a musician, I've come to know that music is a universal language of the world. Everybody can understand that. And everybody has their own key. But the key is to stay in tune, which teaches us about balance again. So I've come up with these 4 keys in my experience as a hoop dancer and with my culture, learning the Cree traditions and the culture. Is the first being awareness. We got to be aware of ourselves and our environment. The next being balance. We have to balance those elements of the medicine wheel to keep ourselves balanced. And then the next part being purpose. We all have to have a purpose in life. And then the last being respect. Respect all things. Respect yourself. Respect your neighbors. And that just keeps going around and around and around the circle. Any which way you want to take it, you can take that any which way you want to go. Now, for the hoop dance, it also connects us to the Olympic rings that you see the athletes during the Olympics. And those rings are different colors. And those are the same colors that are the primary colors of the earth. And those colors, they represent for the colors of the world. So with those Olympic rings, we can connect them to unity because they're all connected. But then when we bring it back to the hoop dance, it also represents for those 4 directions. And we see those 4 directions throughout life in Mother Earth and everything that exists in Mother Earth. And so when we work those circles together, we reconnect the circle because somewhere along the line, the circle has been broken with human beings and nature. So we need to find how to reconnect that circle simply by just studying and living in a circle. So my advice to you, based on the things I shared here today, is you need to find somehow, some way to become one with nature, to reconnect in that circular world, because we don't just live in a linear world. It's evident in the universe. The earth is in a circle. The sun is in a circle. And all the beautiful creatures together, they're all part of that circle of life. So my advice to you is start following that. Start following that circle. It's there to guide you to live a healthy and balanced life. And soon, you will realize your potential, your dreams, and you will start to live in a circle. Thank you. Hi, hi.
Good morning, everyone. We got home so late last night from 24 hours out in the woods up at Narrow Lake. And so we're so pleased to join you today thinking about circles and wisdom and stories we hear from the land. And so yesterday, as we came back from our 24 hours alone, we sat in this great circle and we heard stories and were reminded of what it means to be in nature, to hear stories from trees, to hear stories from ourselves. We heard stories about aspen trees that laugh. We heard stories about spiders that speak to us in the night. We heard stories about what it is to swim with loons. We heard stories about what it means to sit with a cloud of mosquitoes. And we really sunk into the sense of what it means to be one, what it means to be in community, what it means to hold each other dear and know that wisdom lives in each and every one of us. And so we're excited for the opportunity to widen our circle, to go out into nature and to hear what she has to tell us. And so your invitation for this week, as you leave whatever space you're in, whether you're here in the building or dotted around Edmonton, is to go out into nature, to walk gently, and to not interrupt the conversation that she is having.
Thank you, Zoe, for our wild sanctuary moment and our challenge for how we might live in these days that are opening to us. Before we sing our prayer song this morning, this is our opportunity to sing to one another as we hold the particular sorrows and joys that come to each of us in our lives. We sing this morning remembering Mika and Malcolm Wharton, who received the very sad and tragic news that their son was killed in an automobile accident on Friday. And as they grieve and as they live in the shock of that news, we sing for them and to them as we sing our prayer song with one another this morning. Their son, Paul, was just 54 years old, living in the Calgary area and working there. So those of you who have had the particular grief of surviving children know and understand the pain that this family is experiencing. So we sing for them, we sing to them as we sing our prayer song in times when sadness brings fear or pain, seasons of grieving when loss seems more than gain. In word and deed we pray, may our love surround you. In these, your times of need, may love abound. We sing together.
In times of sadness, when life brings fear or pain, seasons of grieving,
We bring our prayer with our care, with our concern, with the very pragmatic things we can do for one another, to be with one another. An invitation for those of you who are joining us online this morning and don't have the opportunity to be gathered in the way that we are gathered in this space, being able to see one another face to face, being able to be breathing together with one another in this place. An opportunity for you to be together on Zoom, to see one another's faces, to breathe together, to be together in whatever this day holds, and to be part of a circle. So we invite you to go to our website and join on the Zoom link. Shortly after we close our circle here, there's an opportunity to gather in a circle with one another, face to face on Zoom. I'm going to turn to Linda and then Jonathan to share with us some things we can do for our partner, the Bissell Center. We're going to start with you, Linda.
Thank you. Well, last week I was up here asking you for underwear and money, and I got both. So I collected over $400, and I went out and I spent 250 of it and got 170 pairs of underwear. So great going. And I still have money left. And because I spent so much, they gave me some gift certificates that I can spend in July on more underwear. So I notice also, I counted today, we have about 80 pairs of underwear here. So altogether now we have over 250. My original goal was 500 pair or more. And I'm sure we're going to reach that and better because I still have money to spend. So think about getting some yourself or giving me some money to buy it. And just remember, I just saw this by Richard Wagamoose. I will do what I can right now in my own small way. I'd like to introduce you to Jonathan, who is with the Bissell Center. He just came there last fall, and we are delighted to have him as our liaison person. And he'll tell you a little bit more about the work of Bissell.
Thank you very much, Linda. And thank you very much to the SSUC. It's an amazing honor to be able to be back in a spiritual space again. I was very involved in my church back home, and I grew up in the United Church, so I'm very familiar with this. And it's touching a special place. The generosity that is inspired through the circle and making sure, I love that I'm going to carry this with me everywhere now because right on the top you say, our circle isn't complete without you. What a great way to start this conversation. So Drop Your Gaunch is an annual event that we do, and it's been so well received over the past few years that we've actually decided to extend it. So normally it's a one-week event. We've decided to extend it now. It's going to be from the 18th to the 29th of July. So Linda is super eager. She's the first person in the city that's been collecting underwear. So I'm already blown away by it. 500 is your goal, is it?
Well, no, I think we should up that.
Would you like a job with Bissell? We could absolutely use your spirit and your energy, but all of you have something to contribute in the way that you can. And the call for Drop Your Gaunch really is about a word that Linda used last week, and that's dignity. We have laundry facilities at Bissell Center, so folks can come in and they can do laundry. And we have run it 4,268 times, run our laundry machines since the beginning of this year. So that tells you how well received that is. Over 6,300 showers were accessed by people coming in. So the things that we're talking about are getting people refreshed and rejuvenated, and how much better do you feel after a shower or a bath? Well, imagine having to then put on dirty clothes. There are doctors that have studied the fact that putting on dirty underwear not only is undignified for our own human self-respect, but actually can lead to medical conditions. Talk about urinary tract infections or yeast infections. Like this is not just a dignity thing. This is a health thing as well. And so we're putting out a call. We want to collect underwear for all ages, all stages, all genders. We do have a children's program as well that's very closely linked. A lot of the people that have come to us and have been housed now send their children to our daycare. And so we can provide for all ages, all across age spectrum and gender spectrums, and a particular call out for sports bras as well. Extra support for our female identified folks. So if you are given a pair of underwear, it sounds like it's just a little something like, oh, I'm gonna pull on a pair of underwear and I'm just gonna go about my day. I mean, we don't get to see, thankfully, we don't get to see each other's underwear, right? It's something that we put on that starts our day, and then we put on the rest of our stuff. But there is a dignity in having something that is so close to you, that is unique, that is your very own. You can open a brand new package and put something on. The folks that we work with, the folks that we support, and the folks that we serve are often, they don't often have something like that. So just the tiniest little crack of a piece of plastic around a new pair of underwear can remind them that they're valued and that they are people that we care an awful lot about. And so, I thank you for the opportunity to come and talk to you. And of course, I took notes on my phone and it went to sleep because I was rambling about. So this is going to be a citywide event that's happening. So it's not just SSUC, although Linda, you are definitely the first person to start, so thank you very much for your energy and your passion for this. All across the city. So if you don't live in this area, or if you are joining online and you're not near the physical building here, don't worry. There will be 6 or 7 different places around the city where you can actually go and drop things off. For folks that are able to get into this building though, your best bet, if you would like to donate, is to bring your donations here, and then Linda and I will coordinate how that gets back to the folks at Bissell. I do know of a partnership here with Find, who's also going to help us out with collecting around the city as well. So imagine folks being able to have a little bit of dignity. And imagine that just something that we all take for granted, that we never see, how much that can change someone's day. There's a song that we sang earlier that the opening line of the very last verse was, "When it's easier to walk away." Please don't. I'm going to challenge you to live up to Linda's energy and to live up to Linda's targets. And what are we saying? 500 was your target currently. What are we? 600. 600. All right. Let's see if we can match that. Thank you very much for your time.
If you have questions about the work of the Bissell Center, I think Jonathan will be around in the foyer afterwards and will be happy to chat with you about programs and services that the center is providing, and perhaps some other ways that we can be supportive and be a partner to folks who access the services of the Bissell Center. So please take an opportunity to chat with Jonathan after our gathering today. We go from new to used. Gently used, lovingly used, maybe could now be used by someone else. So this is the big garage sale we've been waiting for over 2 years. Please come and support with your donations over the course of the week. You'll find in the messenger the hours that you can drop things off. If you have a few hours to offer some help, please do that as well, and please invite your friends and come by on Saturday to support this fundraiser that not only creates funds to support things like the Bissell Center and other programs that we are in partnership with, but is also an opportunity for us to be together in community in ways that we've not been able to be together, working together during these many, many COVID months. Thank you for all the ways that you support the work of SSUC, all the ways that you give of your time and you give of your means. We are deeply grateful and cannot do what we do without each of us doing what we can. So thank you for your gifts. You can support us with the purchase of grocery cards if you wish this morning. They'll be available in the foyer as well. We go to do as we've learned, to draw the circle even wider.
Draw the circle wide, draw it wider still. Let this be our song. No one stands alone, standing side by side. Draw the circle wide. Still right down the circle, our generation turns.
Poet Rilke, Austrian poet, great mystic, who lived from 1875 to 1926, said this: "I live my life in widening circles that reach out across the world. I may not complete this last one, but I will give myself to it." We take our light to live in ever-widening circles of compassion that move from the energy we share in this place and time into all the places that need our love and our care and our hope. And so we go to live our lives in widening circles.